So in my last video, we talked about attachment styles, and attachment styles are formed in infancy when you attach to a parent or primary caregiver, and then they translate into how you interact in romantic relationships in adulthood. So it's really important to understand attachment styles because it helps you understand how you are going to interact with another person and how your partner might interact with you. And it helps you to be more understanding of them when they may interact in a way that you're not comfortable with or that doesn't seem to make sense for you. And over time, the good news is that if you're not securely attached in the very beginning, then you are able to change your attachment style over time. So there is a lot of hope here, and I love that that is the case because I think attachment styles are fluid over time. They're things that can come and go and change in different ways, especially depending on the person that you're with. So in today's video, what we're going to talk about are what are the ways that you can change your attachment style to become more securely attached if you're anxious attachment or avoidant attachment, and what are the things that anxious attached people need to remember and keep in mind when they're trying to change, and what are the things that avoidant people need to understand as well. So let's dive in. Now, when we talk about how to change our attachment styles, you can kind of break it down into 5 main categories. And a lot of these things really come down to, good relationship habits and principles in general. So let's go through each of them and see how they might help you change your attachment style for the better. Okay, so number 1 is to learn your patterns. You need to build awareness. Awareness is crucial to any kind of behavior change, but really what this comes down to is understanding the basics of attachment styles. Understand what your attachment styles are, and especially what they show up as with your current partner. Now, a lot of people go to therapy or counseling for this, and I think it can be really helpful. I know it helped me in my own course of therapy to understand my own attachment style and what kind of patterns of behavior come up for me in my relationship. It's really helpful to understand these because once you have an understanding, you can work on changing it. So first and foremost, if you haven't seen that other video that I created, go back and check that one out so you can help identify your own attachment style and that of your partner. Number 2 is to start questioning your stories. Question the stories that you tell yourself. If you're anxiously attached, are the stories that you are unlovable, that your partner doesn't actually care about you, or that your partner cares more about other people. They're off cheating on you, or they care more about others and don't pay enough attention to you. Think about that. Is that story really true? Question it. Is the story true that that person doesn't care about you? Look for evidence to the contrary and look for evidence that supports it. Oftentimes, when we're in these patterns of behavior, we have these automatic thoughts that are constantly racing, telling us things that support our fears. But when we actually look for evidence of them, say, does that person really not care about me? Oh, well, when they were gone with their friends, they actually texted me the whole time, or when they came home, they told me how much they loved me, and they expressed to me that they cared about me a lot, even though I was really jealous and said that they didn't. So you look at things like this, you look for behaviors or thought processes of yours that might be false, and check to see if the evidence is really there. All right, number 3 is to show up and to allow for vulnerability. So vulnerability can be really hard. It takes people years and years of practice, and showing up can be just as hard. But what that really means is to show up and have communication that is clear and direct with your partner, that expresses to them what your needs are so that they can then understand what they are and try to fulfill them, and to really be vulnerable and say, hey, these are my fears about our relationship. I'm afraid that you're out there, that you like other people and not me, or I'm afraid that you won't give me enough space, that kind of thing. And so showing up and being really vulnerable about what you care about and what you want the other person to give to you is really helpful. Now, these shouldn't come off as demands. It should come off as, I'm showing up, I'm owning my feelings, my insecurities, my doubts, my fears, and I am putting them on the table in front of you so that you can see me as a flawed person and love me anyway. And somebody who is securely attached will love you anyway and will see you showing up in a vulnerable way and meet that with their own vulnerability and by owning their own feelings about the relationship too. Then you can have a real productive conversation instead of either pushing someone away or grasping at them with this longing that doesn't do good for either of you. Number 4 is something that I stole from a coach that I really love, full credit to Brendan Bouchard, but it's called positive projection. Positive projection is essential in relationships. It means that when you look at your partner, you assume the best. It means that when you meet someone else, you are projecting positivity towards them. But in romantic relationships, you are assuming the best about your partner. That means when your partner wakes up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning and is grouchy and you hate them at that moment, you immediately begin to assume the positive. You're saying, oh, they just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Oh, they just are having a hard day. And you assume that they'll come back and be better. This is something that John Gottman, the renowned relationship expert that I've talked about in other videos, actually talks about a lot, is that you assume the best of your partner, and small slights that may rub you the wrong way or that may be really frustrating, you learn to accept over time because you are assuming the best and you're assuming that they always have the best intentions. And I think this is something that you can not just practice in relationships, but you can begin to practice in life with other people. I think it's just really crucial to relationships in general. Something that I try to cultivate in myself, and I find that when I do, it really helps me be a more positive person and really helps me to let go of resentments that may build up with other people who might not be treating you well every single second of every single day. Number 5 is to learn self-regulation through body awareness. This is something that takes a while to cultivate, but when you go into an activated state, your body starts to go into that state with you, right? So when you are worried or anxious or nervous, your heart starts pumping faster, you may get a little bit jittery, you may get shortness of breath, right? We all know that kind of panic mode. And some people react in a different way. Some people, instead of becoming really heightened, they close down, they start to retreat, they withdraw, they become smaller in their body. And these are different patterns that emerge from the fight, flight, or freeze response, right? And so in order to change your reactions and enable you to not react in a negative way or withdraw or totally shut down when you're in a conflict with your partner, which is what a lot of relationships come down to, is navigating those conflicts in a productive way, because every couple fights, but it's the way that you fight that will lead to the productive side of your relationship long term. In order to get better at that, you have to get better at coming into a conversation with your partner, being vulnerable with them, and being able to watch your body react and deregulate in the moment. This is really hard to do, but it takes a while to learn, but I promise you that when you do, it will make a world of difference. Next time you're in a conversation with your partner, when you're ready to be vulnerable, when you feel like you're being avoidant or anxious, and you just want to try to be vulnerable instead and explain to them how you're feeling so they can hopefully meet you, pay attention to what's going on for you. Are you having shortness of breath? Is your heart beating really fast? Are you sick to your stomach? Are you feeling tense in your muscles? Are your shoulders way up here? Or are you condensing? Are you coming down like this? Do you feel yourself almost dissociating from the conversation, like they're way over there and you're way over here in this tiny cave? Pay attention to these things, because the way that you do allows you to then adjust in real time. You feel yourself coming this way, you pick yourself back up, and again, you're present, you're right there with the other person. Or you feel like you're getting really heightened, you say, hey, I need 5 seconds, okay? And you take a timeout, calm down, and then come back into the conversation. When you're able to do this in real time, it makes a world of difference for the way that you're able to interact with your partner and the positive emotions that can come out of that. And when your partner begins to learn these patterns that you have of reacting, they might even be able to say, hey, like I can tell like things are getting a little bit heated, why don't we just take a 5-minute timeout and we'll come back to this. Over time, the thing that you want to meet with is love, and when something gets in the way of that, like one of these emotional reactions, monitoring your physical body will help you get through that in a productive way. Okay, so now let's get into some specifics around how to react if you are an anxious person versus an avoidant person and how you can change that to be more secure over time. The good news is that the relationship research here shows that if you are anxious or avoidant and with a secure partner, that secure partner can actually influence you to become more secure over time. And if you're not necessarily in a relationship with a partner who is secure, you can begin to adopt some of these secure personality traits that will then make you into a secure person and improve your relationship for both of you over time. Okay, so if you are an anxious person, here are 3 things that you can do to become less anxious. 1 is to clearly communicate your needs. So going into a conversation with your partner, clearly communicate how you're feeling, what you need from them, responsiveness, whatever it is, within reason, and clearly communicating that in an authentic way will enable you to be seen by your partner and hopefully them respond in kind. The next is to just be your authentic self. Don't try to bend over backwards to become a different person for your partner. Acknowledge who you are and try to be authentic with them and help them see you for who you truly are. When you do that, then they will see that, the core of what you are, which is that you love them and care for them, and they will hopefully, again, respond in kind. Finally, the last thing you should do is to adopt an abundance mentality. This is true especially if you're dating. If you're anxious, then you're really holding on to that person very tightly, and you're worried that they're going to slip away or that they won't love you, etc. Adopting an abundance mentality simply means that you do love them, you care for them, but you also know that you'll be okay if they leave. You'll be okay if that person isn't with you all the time. That abundance mentality means that you acknowledge that there's abundance in the universe and you will eventually be able to find another person if it really comes down to that. That allows you to be a lot less nervous all the time in those relationships and can help you long term. All right, if you are an avoidant personality, then here are a few things that you can do to change yourself to be more secure over time too. The first is to acknowledge that as an avoidant person, you actually crave intimacy, even though you feel nervous about it and push it away and want independence instead. So what you need to do is to acknowledge that that is the case and look for the patterns that keep you away from intimacy. These deactivating patterns make you feel better and help you push the other person away. These patterns can look like seeing the worm instead of the apple, which is you are constantly looking at your partner and only seeing the negative attributes of them. John Gottman talks about building up a list of positive attributes of your partner and literally practicing feeling gratitude every time you see them for the little things about them that you love. Practicing that over time will help you see the positive instead of the negative. It's a little positive psychology work for you right there. You're literally practicing gratitude, practicing positivity, and that builds up a shield against those negative emotions, seeing the worm instead of the apple. I've met a lot of avoidant people who say, oh, I'm just holding out for the right person. Or they start off really, really liking that person, and then over time, they begin to feel like that person is not right for them because they nitpick at little bitty things that begin to show up as flaws in their partner. Well, newsflash, nobody is perfect. And the way that you develop a stronger sense of love towards that person is by celebrating the good instead of nitpicking at the bad. And the second thing is if you avoidant personality or have an avoidant attachment style, you need to understand and take ownership of the fact that your behavior is often the problem in the relationship. The problem is not that the other person isn't perfect or that the other person has all of these negative attributes. Although occasionally, maybe that might be the case, oftentimes avoidant people will use that as an excuse to blame their partner for the relationship going south and therefore use that as an excuse to pack up and move on because really what they crave is independence. However, if you want to be in a relationship and you're an avoidant person, oftentimes the problem is going to be you. It's going to be those negative behavior patterns coming up that force you to look at the negative side of your partner, to push them away, to seek independence constantly, and instead of intimacy. So recognize those patterns when they come up and acknowledge that the problem may be you and it's your responsibility to take steps to change them. So, as I've said before, the really exciting thing about these attachment styles is that they can be changed over time. And so take some of the references from this video and really try to work on them yourself so that you can begin to change your behavior patterns over time and become more securely attached so that you can build that relationship. Strong relationships and people with secure attachment styles are more able to take risks. They're more able to go out into the world and have solid and fulfilling relationships outside of their romantic partnership too. And so it's really important to work on these things over time. Good luck. Please like and subscribe to this video if you get the chance, and if you found this helpful, please share it with somebody who could use it. Thank you.